Ancient Egypt has fascinated scientists for years. Each year, Egyptologists and researchers uncover new artifacts, each one shedding light on what life would have been like thousands of years ago. Perhaps one of the most mysterious figures that lived during this era was that of Cleopatra. She is one of history's most recognizable figures, yet historians and researchers don't know much about her, and this has led to many archaeologists trying to uncover information that may give us an insight into our life. The lack of discoveries in regards to Cleopatra have interested many people over the years. One of the most sought-after discoveries in the field of archaeology is that of the discovery of the lost tomb of Antony and Cleopatra. According to ancient accounts, after the Roman leader Augustus defeated Antony and Cleopatra back in 30 BCE, he permitted them to be buried together in the city of Alexandria located in Egypt. Despite this report and detailed announcement, records elaborated that Antony had been cremated and placed into a large jar. However, Egyptologists and archaeologists are more than confident that the body of both rulers will be found mummified in a traditional Egyptian manner. Back in 2008 and 2009, popular Egyptologist Zaha Hawass announced that with the discovery of the Temple of Osiris within the city of Alexandria in Egypt, that he will be able to find the hidden tomb of Cleopatra and Antony. Unfortunately, despite more than 27 tombs being uncovered in 10 different mummies located in the region, not one of the tombs was indicative of that of the long-lost tomb of Antony and Cleopatra. Recently, however, there has been evidence of additional sites below when using ground-penetrating radar back in 2011. Cleopatra was one of the rulers in ancient Egypt, and texts has revealed that she was very beautiful. Apart from her beauty, Cleopatra was very intelligent. She was able to speak several languages, and she had formed military alliances with Roman leaders Mark Antony and Julius Caesar. She is perhaps one of the most popular characters in history, and over the years there are many myths about her. Egyptologists have worked hard to gather more knowledge about Cleopatra and her reign over Egypt. During the early half of 2019, there were many media reports that archaeologists had discovered the tomb of Cleopatra. However, once again this didn't turn out to be true. The tomb eludes researchers to this day, and some have theorized that the tomb and her remains will never be found, as they may have been looted by raiders and private collectors long ago. Although not much is known about her whereabouts, her life and history has interested many people, and she has been depicted in movies, TV shows, and books. There have been accounts that Cleopatra would soak her ship's sails in a liquid, which some have described was an ancient perfume. Interestingly, it's been reported that Mark Antony was able to smell her from miles away. One of the reasons we know about this is because of a writing by William Shakespeare. He recorded that the scent was so perfumed that the winds were lovesick with them. The team of researchers have now recreated this ancient perfume. The researchers were able to find out that Phoenix was the location of a manufacturing site for perfume. In fact, the team have said this location would have been the home of one of the most popular perfumes during this era, and that this was where Cleopatra would have had her unique smell created. The team discovered that the ancient Egyptians constructed this bottle out of clay. Interestingly, after some research, they were able to find some ancient bottles that contained some of the original scent, although they did say there was only a tiny amount left in it. Regardless, this was a massive find for the researchers and was enough for them to work with. After conducting some tests, the researchers were able to find out the substance that was discovered in the bottle was made of myrrh. Interestingly, this is mentioned in the Bible and is said to be one of the most desired fragrances, further saying that it's connected with the elites as it would have been expensive. One thing they picked up on when they created the smell is that it was strange. After the creation, they said that it would have been gloopy and sticky, and have suggested this is one of the reasons why it was able to stick to the ship. They also suggested that due to the consistency, the smell would have stayed on the ship for longer. It turns out, though, the smell of the perfume was quite nice, and was likened to that of spices while being musky at the same time. The team said this would have been the sought-after perfume and that rulers would have wanted this. Further research told them that it would have been one of the most popular fragrances in the area at the time. However, there are some that don't believe this, saying that the perfume would have been too common for Cleopatra to have worn it, saying that she would have most likely had something personally made for her. Regardless of the theories, the researchers uncovered an interesting relic of ancient Egypt. and help to give us an insight into what Egyptians would have smelt like during that era. It's often a huge misconception that the ancestors of the past were overall less educated compared to the people of the present. This statement could not be further from the truth, as archaeological evidence has shown that not only have our ancient ancestors made strides that we ourselves cannot replicate today, but that they battled against the elements, disease, and the worst the world had to offer long before they were able to relax and enjoy the fruits of their labor. All over the world, our ancient ancestors have left their mark in one way or another, and this is usually seen in the impressive structures that litter our planet. For years now, they've invoked otherworldly involvement, as we have struggled to understand how early humans were able to construct these megaliths. One most noble ancient society is seen as the cradle of human civilization, where the advancements made by the ancient civilization of Egypt. And over the years, some mysterious discoveries have been made inside one of their greatest creations. Recently, scientists made the discovery that electromagnetic properties exist in the Great Pyramid of Giza. This could mean that nanoparticle designs could be designed for highly efficient sensors and solar cells. The scientists and researchers have discovered the Great Pyramid concentrates electric and magnetic energy into its internal chambers. This is located below its base, and it creates a pocket of higher energy. As many of you know, the pyramids have inspired many legends over the years, and some think the Egyptians were way ahead of their time. One of the biggest questions is, how did this civilization build such impressive structures? Some of the world's greatest minds have said that it's perhaps one of the greatest ancient mysteries. Dr. Andres said the following: Egyptian pyramids have always attracted great attention. We as scientists are interested in them as well. So we decided to look at the Great Pyramid's radio waves. The international research team noticed that the shape of the Great Pyramid of Giza and its ability to focus electromagnetic energy. The team then created a model of the pyramid as they wanted to measure its electromagnetic response. By doing these studies, the team was able to see how the wave energy was being scattered or absorbed by the pyramid. The researchers have said that the ancient Egyptians were not aware of this design. However, some have questioned how the ancient Egyptians would have been able to do this by mistake. The pyramid is special though. As mentioned, it's able to focus wave energy through its core. It seems that every year researchers find out more about the pyramids. The Great Pyramid is located at the center of the landmass of the Earth. The four faces of the pyramid are slightly concave, and it's thought that this is the only pyramid to have been built this way. The centers of the four sides are indented with an extraordinary degree of precision. This means that it actually forms an 8-sided pyramid. What's bizarre though is that this can only be seen from the sky. What many have pointed out is, why can we only see this when we're above the pyramid? What use would this have in a time when air travel is not possible? Some researchers have said this wouldn't have been done by mistake, and that it hasn't caused the overall structure to suffer in any way. Also, it's only detectable at dawn and sunset on the spring and autumn. This is when the sun casts shadows in the pyramid. As of today, there are still many unanswered questions when it comes to the ancient Egyptians, and hopefully in the coming years some of these questions will get answered. All over the world are mysterious inscriptions and rock designs. Some of these have easily been explained by those who study them. However, there are some that have created more questions than answers, and one of these can be found in England. The Shugborough inscription is a sequence of letters. OUOSVAV. These 8 letters are carved in between the letters D and M, which are inscribed at a slightly lower level. These 10 letters are carved into the 18th century's Shepherd Monument on the grounds of Shugborough Hall in Staffordshire. The inscriptions can be found just under a mirror image of the painting by Nicholas Poussin, The Shepherds of Arcadia. There is no real explanation as to the meaning behind the inscriptions, and thus the Shugborough inscription is considered one of the most mysterious figures in the world, and remains uncrypted to this day. Several scientists and notable individuals have tried to work out the meaning of this inscription, and some of the most popular figures include the likes of Josiah Wedgwood, Charles Dickens, and Charles Robert Darwin. All of them tried but failed to determine the meaning behind these mysterious inscriptions. While the mystery behind the Shugborough inscription yet remains to be solved, there has been a lot of assumptions and speculations raised by various scientists and geologists as to what the true interpretations of the mysterious inscriptions are. Some of the scientists made an attempt to interpret the inscriptions in an acrostic manner by trying to match each letter with the first letter of the word. Others did not interpret it as such, and instead made speculations on the hidden meaning behind the inscription. The mysterious letters have caused a lot of confusion, with some researchers, scientists, and historians coming forward with their own theories. Many people have come to believe that the inscription has no actual meaning, and doesn't actually stand for anything. They are of the belief that the letters were simply inscribed to deceive and fool anyone who feels there is a hidden meaning behind the wording and mislead them into trying to solve a fake mystery. But various suggestions and interpretations have thus been given to prove these people wrong, in an attempt to ascertain that there is indeed a hidden meaning behind the inscription. One suggestion is that the 8 letters are coded, and this was created by George Anson to his late wife. The Morchard bishop in the year 1951 hypothesized that the letters could have been forged from a Latin phrase, which translates to best of wives, best of sisters, and most devoted widower dedicates this to your virtues. Another interpretation is that the letters may represent a new Latin translation of the phrase vanity or vanities, save the preacher all is vanity. The letters could also represent the people that lived in Scarborough. Interestingly, some have made the connection between the letters and oak garland in Canada. Researchers have discovered there's 2,810 letters, and Scarborough is 2,810 miles from the Money Pint. Another point of view is that the letters OUSV are pronounced Yusuf, referring to the biblical prophet Joseph. Keith Massey, a Latin and Arabic teacher and linguistic expert, also gave his insight about the inscription, and he believes that he has found a convincing solution to the mystery inscription and its true meaning. Massey believes that the letters OUSVAVV may stand for the initials of another Latin phrase, which translates to, I pray that all may follow the way to true life. Massey believes this to be an accurate interpretation of the inscription, and he advises others to stop trying to unravel any other meaning beyond this. However, as some have pointed out, it's just their theory, and it doesn't mean they're correct. As of today, the mysterious coded message remains a mystery. Another mysterious object is that of the Judicolor Rock. The Judicolor Rock is located in a field in the rural community of Caney Fork in Jackson County and is a soapstone covered in mysterious sculptures. It entails lines, circles, and scribbles that seem to form different shapes, and these mysterious and intriguing shapes have become the source of much debate over the years. There have been questions about the exact meaning behind these shapes and whoever it was that carved them. Several years have passed, and these mysterious shapes are yet to be deciphered by anyone. Perhaps one of the most intriguing facts about this site is its long history and the moment it was first discovered. The first engravings on the rock appeared 1,500 years ago, and interestingly, thousands of years prior to this moment, the prehistoric Native Americans used this area around the rock to mine soapstone, a rock prized for its heat retention properties. The Cherokee who later resided in the area considered this site to be sacred. As a matter of fact, the name Judicolor comes from these Cherokees. According to their legend, the rock otherwise known as Sulcala is an ancient great eye giant, a powerful being with supernatural capabilities to fly and jump very high. The giant was believed to be capable of even controlling the rain, wind, storms, and lightning. The Cherokees believe that it was this giant that landed on the rock, whilst he was jumping from mountain to mountain, leaving on it a 7-fingered imprint of his hand. The stone is at the base of the mountain where there's an abundance of metals and minerals, and researchers have suggested there's a strong electromagnetic interference around the rock. It's said that 2 other engraved rocks are present in the area. One was buried in a mining accident, and the other is presumably buried as well. Since the site is dominated by the extraction of mountains rich in minerals, the area has never been completely excavated. In a limited excavation, archaeologists found extraction tools nearby and speculated that the soapstone rock could have been carved around the date when the soapstone balls are also dated, with other estimations dating them around 200 BC. Various theories have been raised about the meaning of the petroglyphs on the rock, and these theories are mostly based on assumptions, as no one can actually tell what the original cover was trying to convey. Some of the theorists believe that the petroglyphs represent humans or some other animals of importance. Some assumptions claim that it might be some sort of map to secret locations, while others believe they are religious symbols with hidden messages. Scientists have recently made an effort to study the rock and create a detailed view using laser-guarded equipment. But unfortunately, the rock has started eroding due to the weather, and it seems the symbols will gradually disappear and completely evade any further study. For now, the rock is under the care of Jackson County, and they are taking necessary steps to prevent corrosion and preserve the rock for viewing. A fascinating discovery that's confused scientists is that of the mysterious carved stone balls. For those of you who are not aware, carved stone balls are spherical stones which are often regarded as pressure stones because their shapes have been altered and appear to be ornamented. They are known to have lumps, and some have extensive and highly varied engraved patterns. They are usually round and rarely oval, and each of them have a fairly similar size. Approximately 2.75 inches or 7 centimeters wide, with 3 to 160 lumps protruding on the surface, with around 6 lumps being the most common. Also, the bores are very unusual in their size. The carved stone bores date as far back as the Neolithic, and are even presumed to be as late as the Iron Age. This tells the researchers that the stones are around 5,000 to 5,500 years old. The majority of these stones have been discovered in northeast Scotland. Most have been found in Aberdeenshire, the fertile land laying east to the Grandpere Mountains, which happens to be one of the 3 major mountain ranges in Scotland. Although these carved stone balls are distinctively Scottish objects, some have been uncovered outside of Scotland, be that in Ireland and England. One place where these stone balls have been discovered is that of Cumbria and Low. A collection of 30 curved balls from England, Ireland, and Scotland are being held at the British Museum. A few of these balls have also been found in places like the Orkney Islands. Many of the stone balls have not had their era of discovery recorded, and most are found as a result of agricultural activities. These stone balls are portable and quite easy to transport due to their size, and most are sized to fit conveniently in the palm of an adult's hand. There has been a lot of assumptions as to the reason why these stones were carved. Australian author Lynn Kelly proposed that the stone spheres served as memory devices, but at the time when they were made they could have been used as memory aids for all history of time. Just as Australian Aboriginal cultures used rock art in the surrounding environment, but some have suggested that they were simply used as medieval weapons, either fixed to a wooden handle to be swung like a club or simply hoard at enemies. This assumption is not very credible because most of the stones are in good condition, and they do not show any kind of damage that would be evident if they were used as weapons. It seems that every week NASA makes the news. In the last few years alone, they've discovered an incredible amount of planets, nebulas, galaxies, and a vast array of other celestial objects. However, one story that's recently made the news has come from one of NASA's chief scientists. NASA will soon be traveling to Mars in order to drill deep holes in the rocks. This is in the hopes of finding evidence of living organisms on the red planet. Interestingly, Mars could be home to current life, as the space agency has expressed much interest in the planets over the years, along with upcoming space agency SpaceX, who have said they plan to put humans on the red planets within the next few years. The NASA scientists said, though, are we ready for the discovery of life on another planet? It seems that the likelihood is that we're not alone in the universe. Many places in our solar system are expected to harbor life, and our solar system compared to the universe is monumentally tiny. Jim Green is the man who came forward and said this statement, and he thinks this mission could be a real success in finding life on Mars. However, he has said that he doesn't think people of our planet would be ready for the news. It's no secret that we've managed to accomplish a lot in a relatively short amount of time, and in regards to space, although it's massive, we have discovered some incredible things in recent years. It's been suggested by the scientists that this mission will likely be going on for the next few years, and that it will take time to find out if there really is life on Mars. Dr. Green said the following about the upcoming mission. I've been worried about that because I think we're closer to finding it and making some announcements. It will start a whole new line of thinking. I don't think we're prepared for the results. Interestingly, some have said they think that we're close to discovering life on another planet, and they say this because it seems that space agencies are gearing up to explore space more. For example, they use SpaceX and Space Force as examples, and say they think Space Force was established because they're trying to tell us something. Other countries have shown a massive interest in space. This includes places like China, who not long ago made history by landing on the dark side of the moon. It's not just NASA who will be digging into the Martian surface. It's been reported that the European Space Agency, along with Russia, will also be heading to Mars in the hopes of finding life, and that they say they're hopeful and open to the idea that life could be present on Mars. NASA's Mars 2020 rover will be sent to the planet with one mission, and that is to find life. Researchers have said that it will be equipped with the newest technology that will help aid in this discovery, and that once it's collected samples, it will send them back to Earth. Dr. Green said that he's excited for this new STEM and has wished the European Space Agency and Russia the best of luck in their mission. Dr. Green went on to say that if we discovered life, it would be an incredible milestone, but that it would lead to many questions that we might not be able to answer. For example, how did life get there? Are we related in some way, and how long has it been there? This new Martian rover is expected to land on the Red Planet on the 18th of February, with the European Space Agency's rover landing around the middle of March. Researchers now know that water exists on Mars, with scientists saying they think a lake sits under the planet's south polar ice camp, and it's around 12 miles or 20 kilometers across. In the past, studies have been made, and we found in previous research there were signs of liquid water, and this was believed to be flowing on the planet itself. However, this is the first sign of persistent body of water on the planet in the present day. This has been known for a few years now, and it's thanks to NASA's Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter that helped to provide researchers with the strongest indication that water flows on Mars in the current day. This was a massive discovery for the space agency. Using an imaging spectrometer, researchers were able to pick up on signatures on the slopes of the Red Planet, and this showed them that the darker stripes that were seen on the slopes were in fact made by water. During the warmest season, it was harder for the scientists to pick up on, but they did appear on several locations on the Red Planet, meaning they were able to come to the conclusion on what they were looking at. John Grunsfield, astronaut and associate administrator of NASA's Science Mission Directorate in Washington, said the following: "Our quest on Mars has been to follow the water in our search for life in the universe. And now we have convincing science that validates what we've long suspected. This is a significant development, as it appears to confirm that water, be it a small amount, is flowing today on the surface of Mars." NASA went on to say that hydrated salts is what's causing these darker patterns to appear, and that these salts lower the freezing point of a liquid brine. As of right now, the space agencies are looking forward to landing their rovers on the Red Planet and hoping that life does exist on Mars. NASA also made an interesting discovery back in 2014. The private space agency recently saw signs of methane plumes ejecting from the surface of Mars, and began to quickly theorize its implications as an organic molecule of which only finds natural formation via the creation of a variety of bacteria. After many sleepless nights, engineers of the space agency worked to send a Martian rover with the capability of testing the Martian surface for additional organic molecules. Later in 2014, Martian rover Curiosity began collecting evidence of methane traces in the Martian atmosphere and made a startling discovery. The Martian rover found that methane on Mars grew more concentrated by seasons in the Martian and directly correlated with the Martian seasons overall. This led researchers to believe that this correlation between concentration by seasons was additional proof to the hypothesis that Mars contains some form of life. Methane is also an organic molecule, and the majority of methane on Earth also correlates with our seasons, as certain bacteria and microbes eject this organic molecule into the atmosphere during summer and autumn seasons, similar to what the data shows in spurts of methane across the Martian atmosphere. Although definitive signs of life have yet to be observed on the Red Planet, the odds of this observation seem to be more and more promising with the passing years. Another interesting discovery made by NASA happened while above an asteroid. It was announced on the 3rd of December 2018 that a NASA probe had completed its 1.2 billion mile or 2 billion kilometer journey to arrive on the asteroid Bennu. Researchers were excited that the probe was up to the task and had managed to get close to the asteroid as planned. When it was close by, it began a survey of the asteroid. The spacecraft then started to do flyovers of the north and south. Probe will get close to the asteroid as well. It's been announced it will fly around 4 miles above Bennu during each flyover. This asteroid isn't just a piece of rock floating in space. It's one of our solar system's ancient relics. It's been floating in space for more than 4.5 billion years, and scientists have said this rocky body formed within 10 million years of our solar system's formation. Scientists have said that Bennu likely broke off from a much larger carbon-rich asteroid around 700 million to 2 billion years ago. Its original formation was likely in the main asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter. Primary goals of this mission are to refine estimates of Bennu's mass and spin rate, and to generate a more specific model of its shape. Data will help determine potential sites for later sample collection. The first measurements have shown us something incredible. 2 spectrometers on board have provided evidence that clay minerals have come into contact with water. Interestingly, the researchers have said the asteroid is too small to contain water, but did say that during its lifetime it must have come into contact with water. As mentioned, it's thought this asteroid was once part of a larger body, and it's thought the larger celestial body had ice on it. This is how the asteroid most likely encountered water. Another thing researchers have said is that this asteroid crosses the Earth's orbit frequently and could be a problem for our planet in the future. Scientists have said there could be a potential impact around 2135. It's said that if an asteroid of this size was to hit our planet, it would have consequences. The asteroid itself is over 500 meters wide, and although this isn't as big as the asteroid that caused the KT event, it would still cause a lot of damage. However, by then, researchers have estimated that we'll likely have the technology to stop events like this from happening. Radar imaging has not revealed any satellites orbiting Bennu, but small objects up to 20 meters wide may be present but undetected. Explorers and mappers of the last few hundred years have worked to find nearly every piece of land and uncharted air from around the world. Further advancements in modern technology such as satellite imaging and other innovations have also provided humans with the means to see almost every place on Earth with accurate precision. Going back a few years ago, NASA were baffled by these mysterious ice circles in the Arctic. The National Aeronautics and Space Administration has been making incredible discoveries for years. But interestingly, this one wasn't made in space, but rather here on our planet. It all started when NASA sighted some of these holes in the ice. Temperatures here easily reach in the -ins. NASA had spent a decade flying over Earth's Arctic and Antarctic, trying to comprehend the association between the world's atmospheric frameworks. They think there could be a connection between Earth's Arctic, Antarctic, and the mysterious. They were also trying to understand dangerous atmospheric conditions and how they affected our planet's surface. This mission had been named Operation Icebridge. When some NASA officials gave a report about the holes, they claimed this was the first time they'd come across them, and that they couldn't explain what they were looking at. One of the scientists that went on the operation said the holes can be seen for a few months of the year before they suddenly disappear. The researchers, knowing they had a short time of the structures, made sure they took plenty of photographs. Part of the effort in solving the mystery was NASA sending it out to the public and asking if anyone could come to a definitive answer for what the structures were and how they were created. One idea that was put forward was that of dissolving ice. Chris Schumann, a glaciologist at NASA's Goddard Space Flight Center, had one theory, and that was that the Arctic ice is very cold. And when the warmer bodies of water come into these areas, they melt the ice and cause these circular structures to form. This theory is just one of many that have been put forward. And interestingly, this isn't the only discovery that's been made in the Arctic. Researchers back in 2014 came forward and said they were baffled when they visited this region. This was because some of the teams said they could hear sounds while exploring the Arctic. They said the world's greatest chunks of ice started to sink, and this caused them to research the phenomenon. Before this, however, they were here to investigate a large crack that had appeared. To get familiar with the ice crack, which can be found in the Southern Ocean, scientists in 2014 covered many seismic sensors under the ice. It was during this experiment that the researchers were also able to answer the mystery of the singing ice. Turned out the sensors showed that the ice was vibrating, and in turn this was causing a noise to be created, something the team of scientists had never witnessed before. Wind blowing over the top of the ice shelf caused a sub-zero field to create an almost non-stop arrangement of noises. The tones are quite quiet and can't easily be heard. The equipment showed the noises were similar to that of a didgeridoo. The researchers likewise found that the recurrence of the vibrations changed because of changing climate conditions on the ice. When the temperature is rose or fell, for example, the noises would be different. Staying on the subject of sound. Another thing that's baffled researchers is the reports by some people of the aurora borealis making sound. Interestingly, there seems to be a large amount of people who have said while observing the lights they've heard sounds. A report carried out on the aurora sound showed researchers that it was most noticeable around 230 feet above the ground. However, every so often these noises could be heard when the report was conducted by utilizing a variety of mouthpieces to record and pinpoint the noises. The report would be the first concrete evidence that would support claims that the auroras truly made sounds, and throughout all the claims that sounds from the auroras are just myths and never existed. Some weren't entirely convinced of the noises, and said that those who were hearing them may have been suffering from a fever. The report further demonstrated that during the event of the aurora borealis, individuals can hear normal auroral sounds and identify it with the colors of the auroras. On the night of September 2011, further research was carried out. 3 amplifiers and a VLF radio wire were used during a geomagnetic storm to get 20 comparative sounds. The sounds varied in audibility. The gathered information permitted the estimation of the area to know where the sounds were coming from. It turned out the majority of the sounds that were picked up on weren't coming from the sky. While the research outcome helped in recognizing the physical area where the sounds originated from, they don't clarify how the aurora set off the noises. It's like knowing where something came from, but not knowing why it came from there. However, there is a theory that the sun, which is responsible for the display of the colorful lights, is also responsible for the sound. This has not been proven scientifically. What is clear and proven beyond doubt is that the auroras make sounds. Moving away from sounds, Sigmund Levinsky was born on the 15th of May, 1902. Levinsky served in the Russian army and got involved in the Russian Civil War. He furthered his education at the age of 23 years old in the year 1925, when he completed his education at the Naval Aviation School, in which certified him as a military pilot. In 1933, Levinsky became the pilot for the Chief Directorate of the Northern Sea Route. This was after leaving the All-Ukrainian Pilot School, where he served as the training unit leader. His first international achievement came that same year when he evacuated an American pilot who had crash-landed. Levinsky with his co-pilots formed a 3-man team on the 3rd of August 1935. Their mission was to travel from Moscow to San Francisco in a single-motor aircraft. Several miles into their journey, their oil tank malfunctioned and started to spill. The best decision to take at that time was to turn back, and so Levinsky decided to abandon the mission. Levinsky didn't abandon his motive, and the next year, he and a co-pilot looked to demonstrate the probability of an air course between the US and the USSR by means of the Alaskan Bering Straits. The flight was successful, and they finished an 11,800-mile multi-stage departure from Los Angeles to Moscow. This was regarded as a huge feat by Levinsky and his team, and he was granted with Order of the Red Banner of Labor. On the 12th of August 1937, he started a long-distance flight from Moscow to the United States via the North Pole. He encountered problems, however, when he was trying to radio contact his team. While over the Arctic, his plane's right engine failed, which caused the plane to go down. The Soviet government financed 2 aerial searches to try and find his plane. However, at the time they weren't able to find anything, and ultimately knew deep down their fate had been decided. As of today, he and the plane has vanished. It's been theorized by researchers that Levinsky and the plane is somewhere in the Arctic, or that it crashed into the water and now lives in the dams. Another interesting discovery was made by scientists, and this comes from toxic fallout. The researchers said that something bad is happening as the Earth's temperature rises. What they're talking about is the radioactive fallout from nuclear meltdowns and weapon testing. After the tests were done, that wasn't the end of the tests. Fallout then found its way into the glaciers all across the world. Now, if these glaciers melt, which it seems likely they will, it could mean that it might get released back into the atmosphere, and this could have massive effects. A team of scientists have been working together to try and figure out spots where the fallout might be. So far, they've managed to find nuclear fallout in the Arctic, Iceland, the Alps, British Columbia, as well as Antarctica. And as you can imagine, they're starting to get worried. It doesn't help either that researchers have said that Antarctica is melting at an alarming rate. Researchers and scientists who have been mapping and studying Antarctica have come forward and said they've been noticing some strange warming effects at our palms. This is happening at times they wouldn't expect. For example, at winter and in places like Antarctica. Recent studies have been released and suggest the planet is warming up. The scientists have said this warming in the Arctic and Antarctica have been causing many strange events. One being melting of off-winter problems, including permafrost that never refroze winter, and also wildlife deaths. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration released the following statement. In our recent report, we stated that last year was the second warmest year on record in the Arctic. And this came with many problems. Scientists have said that regardless of what your view on global warming is, one thing that everyone should agree on is that the glaciers are melting. And this could cause devastating effects. Our planet is the only astronomical object that is known to harbor life. Nonetheless, there are some interesting facts and discoveries that have been made about outer space in our solar system. It just so happens that Earth is not the only interesting planet in our solar system. Saturn is regarded by astronomers as a gas giant, with an average radius approximately 9 times larger than Earth's. Although Saturn only has 1/8 of the average density of the Earth, it possesses much more volumes, which makes it more than 95 times more massive. Saturn is unique among the planets. It's a massive ball made mostly of hydrogen and helium, and it's adorned with thousands of beautiful ringlets. Some interesting facts and discoveries have been made about this gas giant, and one of the most notable of these discoveries is Saturn's new massive ring. Going back in 2009, NASA's Spitzer Space Telescope had discovered a massive ring around Saturn, by far the largest of the many rings of the giant planet. This ring was previously unknown to astronomers, and yet it had suddenly been discovered around the planet, showing researchers how little we really know about our solar system, let alone the universe. An astronomer at the University of Virginia Charlottesville, Dr. Anna Wurzbier, described the infrared ring as one supersized ring. In her words, she claimed that if you could see the ring in the night sky, it would span the width of 2 full moons. This giant new ring is at the end of the Saturn system, with an orbit inclined at 27 degrees from the plane of the main ring. Most of its material begins around 6 million kilometers, or approximately 3.7 million miles from the planet, and extends outwards by another 12 million kilometers, which is roughly 7.4 million miles. One of Saturn's most distant moons, Phoebe, surrounds the new ring and is presumed to be the source of its material. The ring is also thick. It measures around 20 tons of diameter of the planet. This ring is capable of accommodating 1 billion planets the size of Earth if they were stacked together. The ring is made up of mostly dispersed ice and dust particles, which has a temperature of around 80 Kelvin, which is minus 315 degrees. This interesting discovery debunks the idea that planetary rings are usually found close to their planet and goes to show that although we can't see them, it doesn't mean they're not there. This discovery can also help to solve a century-old enigma of one of Saturn's moons. Iapetus is known for its strange appearance. It has one bright side while the other is really dark, in a pattern reminiscent of the yin-yang symbol. Astronomer Giovanni Cassini saw the moon for the first time in 1671. Years later, he discovered that it had a dark side, now called the Cassini Regio in his honor. Saturn's new massive ring could explain how Cassini Regio came to be. The ring turns in the same direction as Saturn's outer moon Phoebe, while Iapetus, along with the other rings and most of Saturn's moons, go in the opposite direction. According to the scientists, some of the dark and dusky material of the outer ring moves inwards towards Iapetus. One of the researchers said the following: astronomers have long suspected there is a connection between Saturn's outer moon Phoebe and the dark material on Iapetus, and this new ring provides compelling evidence of that relationship. Another interesting discovery in regards to Saturn is that of its giant hurricane. Going back on the 29th of April 2013, NASA's Cassini spacecraft was able to get close to the planet's atmosphere. The raw images, which were later developed, showed complex structures and a dark, swirling storm-like appearance, which NASA has called a giant hurricane. The Cassini spacecraft plunged with approximately 1,900 masts from the top of Saturn's clouds, and within 200 miles off the innermost visible edge of the rings during its expedition. NASA officials reported that as Cassini scientists and engineers did not know what to expect from the GMP, although it seemed clear the unknown dust and debris could have been harmful. The spacecraft was rotated to operate its 13 feet wide antenna as a shield while diving, and it was collecting data during that time. NASA officials tagged it our closest look ever at the atmosphere of Saturn and the giant hurricane. In high-resolution images and videos, scientists saw that just the eye of the hurricane is estimated to stretch up to 1,250 miles, approximately 2,000 kilometers wide, which is 20 times larger than the average hurricane on Earth. The hurricane also swells within a large, mysterious six-sided pattern that many have likened to a hexagon. One of the Cassini imaging team scientists, Professor Andrew Eichsall at the California Institute of Technology in Pasadena, said they had to do a double take when they first saw this vortex because it highly resembles a hurricane on Earth, but this hurricane is of a much larger scale than any we've seen here on Earth. And the interesting fact is that it's somehow getting on by the little amount of water vapor in Saturn's hydrogen atmosphere, because both water vapor and lower atmospheric turbulence make hurricanes more powerful. And Saturn, just like any other gas giant, has a deep hydrogen atmosphere with little water vapor in it. Yet it's still able to conjure such a massive wind. Scientists aren't exactly sure when the massive hurricane formed, but they believe it could be a permanent weather feature. Similar hurricane-like storms have been observed in other gas giants in our solar system, but what puzzled scientists is why wind speeds increase as we move further out in the solar system. The Cassini team have said that Saturn has given them a unique opportunity to study hurricanes and how they act on different planets. In fact, Saturn's massive hurricane might help us to gain better insights into hurricanes on Earth. Unlike the hurricanes that we have on Earth, which are affected by different factors that make them unstable, this newly discovered Saturn hurricane is not affected by such factors. It does not encounter land or ocean boundaries and is stationary at its North Pole, allowing researchers to simply focus on the physics that govern hurricanes. Something researchers are intrigued by is Saturn's moon and cellulose. It is being put forward that this moon may be able to support life. This claim comes after researchers found that its ocean is over 1 billion years old, further saying this is a sweet spot. NASA reported at the 2019 Astrobiology Science Conference that the time frame is long enough there to be life. One of the research scientists said the following: "In the scenario that best matches the real moons, the ocean of Enceladus is around 1 billion years old. That's good news for life. It should have had enough time to arise, and there still should be some energy to power it." The Cassini spacecraft made 127 flybys of Titan and 23 flybys of Enceladus. The Cassini mission ended on the 15th of September 2017, and this was due to loss of contact. After making these firebites, though, Cassini gave researchers an incredible insight into how the moon is doing. It's not just the airless, icy body as it was previously assumed. The detection of the thermal infrared in the 4 Tiger Strike fractures means that Enceladus heats up from the inside out. It's believed the friction caused by the gravitational forces of Saturn has been affecting the heating of Enceladus. On our planet, hydrothermal vents are filled with organisms we can't see anywhere else, with scientists saying there's whole new worlds in these vents that many of us have never seen before. This could be what's happening on Enceladus. Researchers have said there is evidence of hydrothermal vents on the seafloor of Enceladus. Hydrothermal vents usually form at locations where magma and seawater meet. Water runs down the cracks right into the core where it's heated and then comes back out again. Just like Europa, Enceladus is also believed to have a global ocean found under its icy surface. All of the data collected related to Enceladus points out to the fact that it really does have the 3 ingredients required for life. It seems that scientists are one step closer to finding life in our very own solar system. Our solar system is tiny when compared to the rest of the universe, and it makes you wonder what else could be out there. We've managed to accomplish a lot in a relatively short amount of time. We've already sent humans to live in space and to venture on the moon. We've developed massive and very sophisticated telescopes that have been able to reach some of the most remote places in space. Many organizations have decided to take it a step further. The European Space Agency, the Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence, and NASA have been working very hard to find out if we're completely alone. Today, we have a big number of projects that are made to scan the stars for signs of intelligent life. Despite our efforts, Scientists have said we've yet to make contact and we still have no idea what could be out there. Jupiter is one of the most interesting planets in our solar system, and it also holds the title as being the biggest. Researchers have estimated that it's more than twice the size of any other planet in the solar system. Jupiter is also known for its many moons, and one of which being Europa may be home to life. However, this planet has recently been making the news for causing problems to Earth. There's been a debate in recent years whether Jupiter is protecting us or actually putting us in harm's way. This is because some researchers have suggested that Jupiter has been acting as a kind of protector, in the sense that it's been shielding us from asteroids. However, many other researchers have said this isn't the case, and what Jupiter is essentially doing is throwing them towards us. One researcher came forward and said that after studying the way the gas giant interacts with the smaller bodies, it turns out they end up getting thrown in our direction. This comes after computer simulations were carried out, and this showed the team that Jupiter was not protecting the inner solar system, but rather having the opposite effect. And this included Earth being in the firing range of asteroids. Interestingly, it's been suggested this flinging effect was one of the reasons why our planet came to be. Going back to the early days of our planet, these asteroids would have slammed into us and helped mold planet Earth into what it is today. With other researchers saying if it wasn't for this effect, every event that played out on our planet would never have happened. The reason Jupiter was thought to have protected us was because if a planet has a mass of over 300 times that of Earth, then it would act as a kind of vacuum and suck all the nearby asteroids in, meaning that any large asteroids that passed by the gas giant would have been broken down. NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory also worked on the paper and suggested that the evidence does show that Jupiter isn't the protector we thought it was. As of right now, it's an interesting theory that's been backed up with some proof. Scientists are working to gather more information on whether Jupiter really is flinging asteroids at us. In recent years, Jupiter has been at the center of many planned missions, and this interesting planet has taught us a lot over the years. Although this future NASA mission is still in its planning and conceptualization stages, there appears to be real plans made by the organization to develop a future mission that would begin to look for signs of life from the surface of Jupiter's moon. Known as the Europa Lander mission, NASA scientists theorize the most likely candidate for life to be found in our solar system is expected to be within the icy surface of Europa, due to its expectation of the moon holding vast amounts of water beneath the frozen surface. Later, surrounding Europa believe that the moon holds a vast salty ocean of water, similar to our oceans on Earth. This giant ocean is said to span the moon's entire globe. Additionally, due to the frozen surface, scientists expect the conditions of the water to be favorable, as the ice surface acts as a natural atmospheric barrier against radiation, similar to our electromagnetic field, giving life desirable conditions to flourish without its deep oceans. NASA plans on sending a rover to the moon in the attempts to penetrate the surface and collect samples more than 4 inches deep to better understand the complex chemistry of materials from the ocean below. Efforts are already being made by NASA engineers to design a rover similar to the Martian rovers, and that will be able to carry miniature laboratories within the lander to analyze samples, but with the addition of an onboard chemical analysis lamp that will be able to hold microscopic cameras for the analysis of microbes and bacterial life. Although the process is still in its conceptual stages, it holds high promise in the search for extraterrestrial life, and seems to be of growing priority in the coming years. Within the universe, there are inexplicable energy burst planets and their moons, but one that researchers find interesting is Jupiter's red storm. This giant storm has been swirling around for hundreds of years, and to this day we don't know the source of this distinctive red color. Some scientists have been doing laboratory experiments in order to produce the same color. Interestingly, so far the researchers have discovered that possible temperature and radiation might be playing very important roles in changing the color of transparent materials found in their clouds. One of the main suspects is the ammonium hydrosulfide, which is a type of salt. This salt seems to be quickly decomposing at specific atmospheric temperatures and conditions on our planet, and this makes it really hard to investigate. For those who have never heard of this, ammonium hydrosulfide is the third most abundant cloud component found on Jupiter. It's a part of Jupiter's atmosphere, but it does not exist as a gas. This cloud component should be considered as salt grains mixed up with another material. Recently, NASA scientists have come forward and said that Jupiter's Great Red Spot may not be around for much longer. This giant storm is shrinking and could possibly fade away within your lifetime. NASA sent the Juno probe to Jupiter in 2017, and it was able to photograph an amazing detail of the Great Red Spot. However, these photographs showed us that the storm is decreasing in size. Scientists believe that Jupiter's red spot has been swirling for at least 150 years, and it's estimated that it's wider than Earth and has been swirling around since the 1600s. NASA scientists are still studying the giant storm and hope to learn more about its properties in the near future. Another interesting discovery that's been made in our solar system is that of the Great White Spot. Back in 1876, a popular astronomer Elzoff Hall noticed an interesting development on the northern hemisphere of the gas giant planet Saturn. Described as a Great White Spot, it would later be revealed to the astronomers that Saturn had the ability to create massive white spots on the surface of the planet. There were manifestations of thunderstorms 10,000 times stronger than the strongest hurricane experienced on Earth. Interestingly enough, unlike the giant red spot in Jupiter, the thunderstorm does eventually stop and returns once every 30 years, making it one of the rarest astronomical events to be witnessed by scientists since its discovery back in 1876. The development of the Great White Thunderstorm has allowed scientists to accurately map the rotation and atmospheric conditions of the planet during its reoccurrence. Back in 2010, the Cassini orbiter was able to capture high-definition footage of the storm in December of that year. Since these sightings, this Great White Spot has appeared every 30 years, allowing astronomers and researchers to gather relevant data surrounding the planet, along with additional information about changes surrounding the atmosphere and energy of the planet based on thunderstorm formations. Quasars have also piqued the interest of researchers in recent years. One of the smallest celestial bodies in the universe, as it might be a surprise to hear being less than an average of 20 miles in diameter, is responsible for the majority of the electromagnetic waves detecting out in space. These small bodies are known as neutron stars, the product of a collapsed core of a giant star. These collapsed cores are capable of emitting what are called FRBs, or fast radio bursts, as the star rotates at a rate of 1,000 pulses per second. This causes the tiny celestial bodies to have a powerful magnetic field that shoots out beams of light along its magnetic axis. In rare cases, these pulsars could become magnetars, which are so volatile in their energy that a single entity could release the majority of its trapped light and power in 1/10 of a second. One such event was recorded in which a magnetar known as SGR-186 had a burst that released more energy than our Sun has emitted in a total output of over 100,000 years, and this happened in less than 1/10 of a second. This leaves neutron stars as one of the densest, most volatile objects in the universe, second only to that of a singularity. Essentially, this means that due to the fact that a neutron star has yet to collapse in on itself like a black hole, it works to be one of the main causes of the largest explosions ever recorded in the universe, second to no other entities, not even that of the most massive supernovas ever recorded. A single rupture in the crust of a highly magnetized neutron star could translate to an entire aerospace time completely tearing down to the atomic level. Given the fact there are an estimated 30 million magnet stars in our galaxy alone, it leaves a lot to fear. In 2012, this statue of Jesus started to make the news, and this was because according to some it was performing a miracle. People close to the statue at the time noticed that drips of water was coming from his feet, something that many believe is a sign that Jesus himself is inside the statue, or that he's in the room. Word soon spread of the miracle, and many traveled to the church to see it for themselves. This wasn't a hoax, and there was in fact water dripping from the toes of the statue. The church, which is located in western Mumbai, was the location to be if you wanted to witness this incredible act. Interestingly, because you could see this water drip down, some thought it would be a great idea to drink it, perhaps thinking that if they ingested the water it would heal them or give them some kind of power. This soon started a trend where many people started to drink from the statue. Interestingly, this caught the attention of a mythbuster who was interested in the case. He was actually challenged to check out the statue to see if he could see anything that seemed out of the ordinary. When he arrived, he could see that small water droplets appeared to be coming out of the feet of the Jesus statue. He then decided it would be best to bring someone else in to help him take a look at the statue. His friend was an engineer, and offered his services to try to get to the bottom of this mystery. One of the first things that stood out to the engineer was that the statue was pressed up against a wall, and this suggested there could have been something else at play. After looking around the area, he was then able to find out there was a pipe that was causing the dripping. The pipe was located just behind the statue, and due to it leaking, it had caused moisture to build up in the wall. This in turn dripped down the statue and onto Jesus' toes. Interestingly, the next discovery wouldn't make the believers very happy, as it was found the pipe that was causing the drips was actually an overflow pipe from a nearby toilet. So essentially, what people were drinking was drainage water. The alleged miracle turned out to be a bit of bad plumbing. However, even after this investigation, there were those that weren't happy with the discovery and didn't want to believe what the engineer and mythbuster had discovered. He did have his supporters, though, as some Catholics came forward and said this was a case of mistaken identity, but some believers did follow the man with sticks and wanted him to retract what he'd found. Interestingly, the case took a strange turn when the man started to receive phone calls, saying that if he didn't take back what he'd found, bad things would happen. He found this strange coming from people that worshipped a higher power and would pray that everyone got on with each other. Regardless, the threats continued, and he eventually went to Finland to escape the angered crowds. Interestingly, when some people went to the location to see the statue, it's reported that it's no longer dripping water, and the whole story seems to have calmed down. This isn't the only reported case. There seems to be many locations across the world where this type of thing has been reported. Going back a few years ago, a statue of the Virgin Mary in Argentina began to gain attention for again allegedly performing a miracle. It was reported that the statue started to cry, and as if this wasn't strange enough, the family who owned the statue said that Virgin Mary was crying blood. As you can imagine, this immediately attracted the attention from numerous people, and the house where the statue was saw a large influx of people. One local priest came forward and said that the Catholic Church will have to fully investigate the tiny statue before it can officially be declared a genuine miracle. Going on to say the following: the first thing the Church will do is a scientific analysis to see if there is a natural explanation. Only then the possibility of a supernatural phenomenon is considered. After the news broke, some believers suggested that due to what's happening in the world, the statue is trying to warn us of something. Because this isn't the first time this type of thing has happened, many were skeptical about the discovery, saying there could be a mundane explanation for why it's doing this. It turns out the majority of these statues turn out to be hoaxes. One of the most common things that people do is place red ink inside the statues and then drill a tiny hole in the eyes. This gives the impression that the statue is crying blood. Although these events do have their believers, others have said this was a mechanical achievement. Several statues in the past have appeared to cry for a variety of reasons, and they later end up getting explained as either natural or fakes. It's suggested that one of the reasons people do this is for attention or money, with one researcher saying the following: when these types of events happens, it attracts a lot of believers. To them, it's seen as a miracle, and that something incredible could be about to happen. Sadly, it preys on people who are very religious and tend to believe things without a proper investigation taking place. It's not their fault, but rather those who are carrying out the hoaxes. One local resident, however, believes the phenomenon and said the following: I think this is real. I think the Virgin Mary is crying because she's trying to tell us something, and I think that whatever this is, it's going to happen soon. The world at this current moment is in a bad way and something needs to change. One skeptic, though, said that this statue most likely has some kind of pipe running through it, and that this allows someone to cause the liquid to seep through the statue. As mentioned, another way to make these statues cry is by drilling a small hole in the head and pouring water inside. If the statue is made from a type of plaster, scratches are placed near the eyes, and then the water starts to seep through. However, there are those that maintain what is happening is real, and that something big is going to happen, suggesting that whenever something like this is observed, something unexplained happens in the world. As of today, it's widely accepted that none of these statues are crying, with researchers suggesting that after further research, every case that's been investigated has eventually been explained. Jesus is one of the most interesting yet mysterious people to have lived. It's said, though, there are artifacts that give away details about his life. Definitely seen as one of the most important religious artifacts in the modern era is that of the Shroud of Turin. It's a remarkable artifact that also helps to establish never-before-known facts and information pertaining to the Son of God and his experiences. Unfortunately, despite the massive amount of evidence pertaining to the shroud as being legitimate, many still doubt the incredible information it holds, as well as the anomalous properties it contains. According to the testimonies of the New Testament and the scriptures found in the Bible, after the torture and crucifixion of Jesus of Nazareth, he was seemingly wrapped in a beryl cloth and then placed into the tomb, of which was guarded by Roman soldiers to make sure that nobody would attempt to enter. It had already been foretold in the Jewish prophecy that the true Messiah would rise from the dead once again. And so the Roman government was ensuring that no one could break into the tomb to fake the body coming back to life, or claiming that the body moved on its own to fulfill the prophecy. After 3 days of the Roman soldiers standing guard in front of the tomb, a light in the sky appeared in front of the Roman soldiers, and it terrified them as they watched the tomb open. And slowly a massive amount of energy described similar to a bolt of lightning entered the tomb and resurrected the deceased Jesus of Nazareth. Oddly enough, rumors had often spread concerning the beryl cloth in which Jesus was wrapped in, claiming that not only did it hold the bloodstains of the Son of God, but that burned upon the cloth was the image of Jesus of Nazareth. Unfortunately, it appeared that the beryl cloth was nowhere to be found when the apostles had entered the tomb to confirm the resurrection of the Son of God. This could explain as to why the cloth itself was never mentioned in the writings of the apostles, and that the burial cloth had been taken in secret by one of the soldiers, of whom witnessed the event or another that had come in to confirm the resurrection outside of the apostles themselves. Considering the fact the cloth itself has been filled with such divine energy, it would be no wonder that the cloth would be a highly sought-after artifact by anyone of whom could get their hands on it. Today, there are many that say the cloth is genuine, while others argue this and say it's nothing more than a cloth. Over the last few decades, an endless amount of space discoveries have been made, reshaping how we understand the universe. Experts have studied the cosmos and have managed to unravel some of the biggest mysteries. Many other equally spectacular discoveries, however, have not captured the public's attention. One of these that many may not be aware of is that of the Sri Lankan meteorite fossils. Discovering the fossil remains of extraterrestrial life in a meteorite would bring a new era in the astronomical study, as it would suggest there is life existing somewhere else in space. On the 29th of December 2012, a meteorite that was giving off bright green flames was seen hitting the ground in Sri Lanka. Researchers from the United Kingdom and US were able to get their hands on some pieces of the structure and study the site in which the meteorite hit. The scientists said in their papers that several images from the structure showed fossilized biological structures, and that they were hardly carbonaceous. In January, the team also published another paper claiming that fossils of organisms that were similar to diatoms were discovered in the meteorite. Scientists from the Center of Astrobiology in the Cardiff University reported that electron microscope images of the rock revealed tiny fossilized algae forms. In a paper published in the Journal of Cosmology March 2013 edition, the scientists in their description of the fragments said that an inspection of the images depicted the presence of some biological structures that were highly carbonaceous, with some being integrated deeply in the rock's mineral matrix, showing that there's no possibility of them resulting from recent biological contamination. After testing the fragments' nitrogen content in the oxygen isotope analysis, they concluded that the rock originated from deep in space and not from Earth, and suggested it could have even been a comet. So the question here is, why didn't this discovery make the news? This discovery in itself would prove we're not alone in the universe. An early criticism of these findings proposed the possibility of the rock being merely terrestrial-based and was probably struck by lightning resulting in structural alterations. Another point of criticism was that the contamination of the rock after hitting the Sri Lankan grounds. Phil Plait, an astronomer and critic, commented that he was dubious of the reports about the meteorite containing fossil remains. He says that when the previous scientists' works were critically analyzed, it could be found that they didn't do enough tests that were critically needed in establishing the accuracy of their conclusions. Plait argues that the scientists did not determine whether the meteorite was indeed real, and neither did they consider the possibility of contamination. Plate consulted Patrick Koldeck, a professor of evolutionary biology at the University of Colorado in Boulder, who discovered that the origin of the extraterrestrial diatoms could have undergone similar evolutionary events as here on planet Earth, and made the conclusion that the samples was in fact a contamination. These are just theories, however, and there are those that believe this life form did come from space. With one person criticizing their statement and saying the following: even when we discover evidence of life in asteroids, we're not open-minded. It seems that the scientific community is also trying to debunk it straight away instead of being open-minded, and in this case going as far as disrespecting other scientists' work. Another interesting discovery is that of the Chariklo asteroid, and this is because of its ring. Photos taken from the Cassini and Voyager spacecrafts have shown the glory of Saturn's magnificent rings. Despite Saturn being undisputed the planet best known for its rings, planets like Neptune, Uranus, and Jupiter also have their own rings. The understanding of the formation of these rings and how they're maintained is still elusive. They could be ancient and most likely formed as a result of dust and ice in the planetary disk of the solar system, or recent additions from objects debris disrupted by impacts when they went too close to the ring planets. Some rings are maintained by the gravity of moons close by, while others are just on their own. There is one more body to be included in this list, and it's not a planet, but rather it's the first asteroid that's been discovered that has rings. With a diameter of approximately 153 miles, 10199 Chariklo is the biggest known space body that orbits mostly between Saturn and Neptune. While most of these objects have characteristics common to asteroids and comets, Chariklo depicts more of an asteroid characteristics. There is a possibility that it orbited beyond Neptune more than 10 million years ago, and got scattered to its current location after an encounter with the outer planets. On the 3rd of June 2013, scientists predicted this asteroid's occultation of a bright star to be viewed from South America. Astronomers observed from various sites as the asteroid crossed in the star's front. While the asteroid was traveling, it blocked light from the star, and the scientists observed an additional event. A slight dimming of light some seconds before and after the main event, implying there was something else that blocked the light, which indicated that something circled the asteroid. After observing data that was obtained from 7 different points of observation, the team identified the ring's shape, orientation, and size. The system contained a ring that was 4 miles wide close to the planet, and another smaller ring that was 2 miles wide further out. Braga Rebus, a researcher, commented that from the asteroid's surface, there could be 2 magnificent sharp and very bright rings across the sky. Noticeably close is there around a thousandth of the distance of the moon from Earth. He continued to say that from the ground the bigger ring would block the outer ring's view. The rings and Saturn's rings have a similarity in density, brightness, and formation from ice, water, and rock, but different scale. According to researchers, the whole Chariklo system would fit the Cassini division around 12 times. This is referring to the largest gap in Saturn's rings. Researchers have noticed the particles circling around the asteroid are traveling at a much lower rate when compared to Saturn's rings. Astronomers used 7 telescopes with a majority set in South America. Among them, only the European Southern Observatory's Danish 1.5 telescope in Chile recorded the small gaps between the rings. According to scientists working on the project, this was possible because they use a fast sensitive camera that could get an image sequence at around 10 images per second. Similar to a video, both rings' stellar constellation lasted a total of 0.6 seconds, so the camera was able to make a detailed observation. The other telescope's exposed time was more than 0.7 seconds, so they could only capture a single gap in the light. Chariklo is the largest among the outer solar system bodies, with crossing orbits which are altered by outer. Another space discovery that's fascinated researchers is that of the Baby Boom galaxy. Astronomers studying the universe have discovered possibly history's most productive galaxy in star formation. The researchers have said there are galaxy clusters that were born only a few billion years after the universe was created, making them some of the oldest formations the universe has to offer. Also referred to as HFLS3, the not very new galaxy produces approximately 3,000 new stars every year, which is over 2,000 times more than the average Milky Way, and around 29 times greater than the amount of stars currently formed by similar galaxies. A great starburst galaxy happened only after the Big Bang, which resulted in the formation of this universe around 14 billion years in the past, making this galaxy most far away from the pure starburst galaxy. which is still there to date, blazing through their dust and gas reserves to quickly form stars. The Baby Boom galaxy is, however, around 20 times bigger, producing stars at a rate of 20 times faster than normal galaxies. The Baby Boom galaxy is the brightest of the starburst galaxies in the very far-away universe, and belongs to the starburst galaxy class, defining its rate of forming stars. After its discovery and characterization by different wavelength telescopes, its appearance was that of an inconspicuous smudge because of the far distance. The galaxy stood out as the brightest after observations from telescopes at wavelength ranges of infrared and submillimeter. This is as a result of the many young stars. After their formation, the stars produce a lot of UV light and dust, which absorbs the light, emitting it at these particular wavelengths, which explains why they're visible. To further understand the Baby Boom's galaxy Uniglow, a team of scientists followed the studies up with several telescopes to measure how far it is to their galaxy, and found out that it is 12.3 billion light-years away. Further measurements of radio wavelengths enabled astronomers and scientists to conclude that the Baby Boom's galaxy rate of star formation is approximately 1,000 to 4,000 stars every year. A race that will require the galaxy's 50 million years to form a galaxy as big as the greatest ones that have been seen today. Peter Capek from the Spitzer Science Center of NASA said that initially, galaxies forming stars like this had only been seen in a teenage universe, but this particular galaxy formed stars while still in its childhood. The mystery is whether most of the big galaxies form stars early like the Baby Boom galaxy, or whether this one is an exception. Addressing this mystery will enable scientists to understand the degree to which the model of the hierarchy of galaxy formation is true. Co-author Nick Scoville from Caltech said the observed incredible activity of star formation suggests they may be witnessing the birth of the most enormous elliptical galaxies in the universe. There are millions of species on our planet, and researchers have done a great job at discovering them. However, scientists have said there's hundreds of thousands of undiscovered animal species, and that every year we discover almost 2,000 new species. One interesting way that mysterious creatures make the news is by eyewitness reports, but what's more interesting is when these creatures are captured on camera. This is what happened with one creature whose identity is not known. This photograph has been making the rounds on social media for years, and interestingly, its original story is not known. In fact, it's not known where the original photograph comes from. Perhaps the most well-known story attached to the photograph is that the feet of this animal belongs to a cryptid. Most suggest it looks like the feet of the mysterious dogman, a dog-like humanoid that's been reported in several parts of the world for the last few decades. Interestingly, many have come forward with their reports, and when combing through each one, they're very similar in nature, making some suggest that what people are seeing is the same creature, and that it somehow managed to survive in various regions across our planet. The image went viral in 2018, with many people sharing it on Facebook and claiming that it was captured on a trail camera in Alabama. The story goes that the property owner kept hearing mysterious noises on their property late at night, and that whatever creature was making them, it didn't sound like any local wildlife. The man forgot about the noises until 2 days later, when he heard one of his goats make a loud, pitch-creamy noise. It caused the man to run out of his house and attempt to find the goat. However, his animal was nowhere to be seen. While walking around his property, he could see that the large paw prints littered the area where his goats were kept, and he knew that whatever it was just trying to get a quick meal. He wasn't able to move the goats as they were out in the open. The story then goes that everything went quiet for a few nights before the same goat noises were heard again. Recognizing the noises, the man once again ran outside to try and catch whatever was causing harm to his animals. However, same as before, he was too late, and whatever it was had escaped with another one of his gums. It's reported that this happened 5 times before the man had enough. He decided to invest in a trail camera and try and catch whatever this creature was. Same as before, when inspected the area where his goats were, he could see large footprints. After installing the camera and waiting for a few nights, the same event played out with one of the goats being taken. The difference this time, though, was that the trail camera had managed to capture something. When looking through, it said that he was baffled as to what he was looking at. When posted online, many people put forward their theories, with one person saying it was identical to what they had seen on their property, and that they think it's the mysterious chupacabra an animal known for taking down smaller animals and draining them of blood. Others suggested that the feet were more humanoid, and that what he's actually captured on camera was that of the Dogman. However, some said this story isn't true, and what the photo actually shows is a mysterious creature that was captured back in 2015. With that being said, the story is still similar, except it details a woman setting up a trail camera because a mysterious creature kept coming onto her property. Researchers have come forward and said they haven't been able to identify the original source of the photograph, and claim that every couple of years or so it makes the rounds on social media. Some who've seen it, though, are convinced it's one of the clearest photographs yet of the Dogman. For those unaware, all across North America are reports and tales of a creature that's become known as the Dogman. It's been described as looking like a strange werewolf-like creature, and seems to possess supernatural strength and abilities. Some eyewitnesses have often compared the creature to a more dog-like Sasquatch, whereas others believe it to be more of a werewolf beast, and at the center of skinwalker legends. Interestingly, for the last 60 years, there have been many reports about these creatures. And as with most of these tales, the majority of the stories follow a similar theme. Researchers have managed to pinpoint the first Dogman sighting to 1887. This was said to have occurred in Wexford County. The story goes that two lumberjacks were having a conversation when one of them spotted something mysterious. He described it as having a man's body in a dog's head. When they noticed it, they quickly left the scene, not wanting to stay and risk getting hurt by the large creature. Fast forward to 1961, and the security guard witnessed something similar in Big Rapids, Michigan. Most of the encounters with these creatures are just stories, and there's no way to back up what the individual saw. However, the security guard remembered that he had a camera on him, and was in fact able to snap a photograph of the large beast. Those who've analyzed it say it matches other eyewitness descriptions of the Dogman. Although the majority of the Dogman sightings are from Michigan, there have been some outside of this area that have come forward with similar experiences. One of these occurred in California. One of the strangest reported encounters of the Dogman creature comes from that of a report made in Sacramento, California. According to the reporter, the story circles around that of a woman who claimed to have encountered the Dogman creature near the city of Sacramento back in 1953. The sighting is believed to have taken place roughly 1,000 feet west of the American River, a short 2,000 feet east of the state capital, on a small house owned by a small family in the region. According to the woman, she had this sighting when she was roughly 12 years old, as she was watching television and laying down on the couch. As she was laying there, she claimed to have noticed a large mass moving in the window as if someone was watching into the home. She quickly got up and went to the window to see a large face of a dog that seemed to be staring into the room. She claimed that the head of the dog looked very large, much larger than that of a Cody or normal dog of any kind, and it had a long straight snout too dark to see what color it could have been, but was believed to be a dark gray with glowing red eyes. She ran from the window when she noticed the creature began to stand on its hind legs, and that it was standing 5 feet above the ground. She screamed for her parents to come, which scared the Dogman away before anything else could occur. They quickly went outside and claimed that nothing was nearby, and that the window was far too tall for a dog to be standing up and looking into. Unfortunately, nothing more could be gathered from the report, as the woman was unsure of the exact time of day the event had occurred. When reported, most of these encounters are just brush designed, and officials say that what people are seeing is just stray dogs. However, the eyewitnesses have said that what they encounter wasn't any ordinary dog. It's interesting to note that Navajo Native Americans have been talking about these creatures for years. Though they're known as the Dogman, they also go by the name of skinwalkers. They follow a similar description, looking like a human but having werewolf-like features. The Navajo describe them as possessing superhuman strength, being able to move fast and having the ability to easily take down a human. According to the stories, the skinwalkers were most frequently seen as foxes, cooties, wolves, crows, eagles, or owls. Some stories even tell of skinwalkers attacking people by appearing as a relative or an acquaintance. The ability of the skinwalkers depend on who you ask, but most say they're able to possess the bodies of their prey by looking into their eyes. This way they're able to control the actions of people. Although many have come forward with their reports over the years, as of right now the mysterious Dogman remains a mystery until more evidence can be gathered. Others have suggested that what this photograph shows is that of a lobbyism, or as it's more commonly known, the South American werewolf. These creatures were often seen by locals during the night, and they say they stand over 6 foot tall and are usually seen in forested areas. Some have speculated that the creature could be a dog with some kind of disease. Regardless of the theories, it seems that this photograph isn't going to get explained anytime soon. In the southern part of Siberia lies a mysterious lake which has many stories attached to it. This interesting lake is known as Lake Baikal, and it's reported as being the deepest and most ancient lake on the planet. Due to this, it's been given the name of the Pearl of Russia. This lake is deep, and it's said that within these depths of creatures and objects, only a few are seen. Giant lake monsters have been reported to live in Lake Baikal. Perhaps the most interesting reports from this region, though, is the vast amounts of unidentified flying objects said to be interested in this area. Interestingly, declassified Soviet-era documents have been discovered which detail the Russian Navy have had run-ins with unidentified flying objects. Although these documents don't mention just UFOs or even the lake in particular, the two are talked about in the documents, and it's led some people to believe that these crafts have been visiting the lake for many decades. For years now, mysterious lights have been seen by various people visiting the lake. These mysterious objects are known by the locals, and they've said they've been here for many years. Some groups have even suggested the crafts are after something inside the lake, while others suggest they're just observing. Some have suggested that these crafts actually enter the water and have on some occasions been seen exiting the water at very high speeds. This has caused them to become known as USOs. Many are well aware of the commonalities seen when reading over numerous UFO reports, and what they tend to mean when spotted. The term UFO has become synonymous with images of extraterrestrial life, despite the term having existed in aviation for many decades prior to the alien abduction phenomenon that helped to popularize the term. Prior to its stigma with the extraterrestrial phenomenon, the term UFO, which stands for Unidentified Flying Object, was commonly used in the military to help classify enemy planes that had not yet been identified. Though it might seem obvious in explanation, many still can't help to envision little green men when the term UFO is thrown around in a wide number of military and civilian reports to this day. UFO is not the only term that's grown in popularity within the extraterrestrial awareness community in recent years, as there appears to be another term that is slowly becoming far more popular and shedding light on the technological capabilities of extraterrestrial life. Known as unidentified submerged objects, there have been a number of reports by fishermen, naval intelligence, and a wide number of anonymous claims by extraterrestrial awareness outlets that describe sightings of bright lights or quick-moving objects through the ocean that does not fit the design of anything terrestrial in nature. And Lake Baikal is said to be one of the places on the planet where these mysterious crafts can be seen. These USOs, as they're called, have proven to look remarkably similar to UFO sightings and flying saucers-shaped extraterrestrial crafts. In fact, many sailors have claimed to have seen USOs rise out of the water and fly away as a massive bright light. This has led many to consider the very real possibility that UFO crafts also have the ability to serve as submerged crafts, leading many to believe that perhaps there are a number of underwater extraterrestrial research bases on Earth that our current technology is unable to detect and discover. What then are people around Lake Baikal witnessing? The truth is, no one knows what these crafts are and what they want. Information on them is limited, and they've never been photographed going in and out of the water. One interesting account of these UFOs involves that of a Russian Tu-154 aircraft. This plane was said to have been chasing an unidentified flying object when something suddenly went wrong. It caused the plane to make an emergency landing in the lake. It said the plane was sent out because one of these UFOs was getting too close, and the military wanted to know what it was. However, the plane wasn't able to get close to the craft, and some researchers have suggested the UFO shut the plane's electrics, and this is the reason why it crashed into the lake. Perhaps the most interesting account to come from the lake is that of the lake people. This first contact happened in 1982. This was when Navy divers in the lake reported seeing what they described were giant humanoids. They said these beings were much larger than them and appeared to be wearing some kind of suit. The divers were interested in these underwater giants and so decided to go and investigate. However, The story goes that as they approached the beings, they were quickly thrown to the surface of the lake. And due to the force in which this happened, the team suffered multiple injuries, with some of them even passing away. The Russian government, however, denies that this happened, and they say it's nothing but stories. Interestingly, these aren't just one-off reports either. Many have come forward with their alleged encounters with these creatures, and each one follows a similar theme. Reports details that when approaching near the continent of Antarctica, Japanese crew members will report seeing what appears to be large giants laying out in the ocean, and that they appear to be humanoid in shape. These creatures are described as being 20 to 30 meters in length and completely white in skin tone. Others have reported that the creatures was originally mistaken as being a large submarine in the distance, before getting closer and seeing hands, fingers, eyes, and a mouth. This led to the name of the Ningen by the Japanese crew, whereas others simply refer to these creatures as the Antarctic humans. To this day, a few images can be seen online, but some have suggested these are recreations and not the actual creature itself. Those that have had a close encounter with them have described them as being calm creatures and do not mind humans being in the area. Although the majority of these stories comes from the icy continent, others have shared their story of encountering something similar in other parts of the world. This has led some theorists to speculate that these creatures actually inhabit a wide area and aren't just confined to the cold waters of our planet. In Sweden, residents have been coming forward and saying that when on their boats they keep seeing strange creatures in the water. They describe them as aquatic creatures, and some people have come forward and given detailed accounts. One person said that while on their boat they could see a large white object below the surface. After slowing the boat down to get a better look, the creature in question slowly swam past. Not knowing what these creatures are, many have tried to take a photograph, but the majority of them are blurry and don't show anything that can be ID'd. These creatures are thought to resemble large humanoids and don't look like any marine creature. While some videos have emerged showing these creatures, most agree they're fake. However, the eyewitnesses stand by their testimonies and say that these strange creatures are attracted to their bones. It's not just Russia where these USOs are being seen. Sweden is also said to be a hotspot for these unidentified submerged objects. UFOs are being reported here constantly, and the fishermen can't explain what these mysterious objects are. An unidentified submerged object, or USO, as any object or optical mechanical detection phenomenon of unknown origin, observed underwater that remains unidentified even after a thorough investigation. Most people who see these USOs usually report flashing lights under the water. Some eyewitnesses say these crafts can enter the water without making any disturbance. However, photos and videos of these crafts is debatable. Some believe the creature responsible for these sightings could be that of the Ningen that is seen close to Antarctica. These creatures are usually encountered in cold regions, but in the last few years reports have come from all over the world. These creatures are said to often get misidentified as whales, and some eyewitnesses have said it's hard to tell the difference unless you're really close. Sometimes they're described as having fins or a large mermaid-like tail instead of legs, or even tentacles. Although the creatures are said to be quite relaxed, it's said that if a human approaches one, they'll quickly disappear. These creatures are believed to be curious but shy. All of these stories tend to follow a similar theme. Usually when someone does encounter them, it's always brief. Ningen sightings seem to occur most frequently at night, making them all the more difficult to photograph. It's been suggested by some that this creature is responsible for the encounters in Sweden. However, skeptics believe that eyewitnesses are just seeing whales or other marine life. It's said that until better photographs can be taken, this creature will remain a mystery. As of today, Lake Baikal has left many with questions, and every so often people still report seeing strange lights above the lake. It's also reported to be a serpent-like monster living in the lake, and it's said to be one of the reasons why the Russians were so interested in diving down there. However, as with most alleged sea monsters, it's been reported it's just a myth, and it's told in the hopes of getting more people to visit the lake. Time travel is a fun topic. For years now, there have been a number of strange occurrences that seem to create a manipulation in both space and time. These strange occurrences have come to be known as different instances of time travel and time slips in our reality that not only causes unexplainable phenomena to surface, but can change our very perspective on the nature of our world. Some of these are known to be hoaxes, but there are some cases in which, of course, a lot of confusion. This could be because the case never gets solved or the people involved seem to vanish. Recently, Ron Mallett made the news by talking about time travel. In fact, it's said that he's built a prototype time machine and that it could help us to achieve much more in the future. Ron Mallett is currently an astrophysicist and physics professor at the University of Connecticut. He recently did an interview with CNN where he said the following: so according to the theory of relativity, if you're traveling fast enough, you respectively are traveling through time, and effectively that would be a representation of time travel. Many of the greatest accomplishments surrounding that of Einstein's work was not actually that of the math that he developed with the help of his wife, but rather that of his understanding of the qualities of space and time, and the addition of his work surrounding the existence of dimensions when talking about the nature of reality itself. In the realm of classical physics, many scientists had once believed that our universe, our very reality, was once only existing in 3 discrete dimensions. These 3 dimensions allowed solid objects to exist on 3 different planes, length, width, and height, and was believed to make up the entirety of space. The truth was, however, far stranger than what Aeon had ever anticipated. Given the fact that 3-dimensional space has the ability to warp and distort the very fabric of reality, Albert Einstein began his work on theories of special and general relativity, understanding that perhaps there was another dimension they'd yet to be accounted for. It was during this work that Einstein would uncover the nature of gravity wells, the distortion of space, and how this can in turn distort the very passage of time itself. By understanding that the warping of space also correlated with that of the distortion of time, it became obvious to Einstein that space and time were one and the same, and that perhaps this unaccounted for extra dimension was that of time itself. By realizing that time and space will interweave, Albert Einstein began to propose his theories of the fabric of space-time, the understanding that both work in tandem to help form the very nature of reality itself. Ron Mallett went on to say the following during his interview: "It turned out my understanding about lasers helped me in my breakthrough with understanding how I might be able to find a whole new way for the basis of a time machine. By studying the type of gravitational field that was produced by a laser ring, this could lead to a new way of looking at the possibility of a time machine based on a circulating beam of light. Eventually, a circulating beam of laser lights could act as a sort of time machine and cause a twisting of time that would allow you to go back in the past." Ron is someone who has experience with lasers, and his time machine is based around them. The machine currently consists of a closed loop with 2 beams of light that travel in opposite directions. It's been proven that a laser ring is able to measure the effects of the rotation of the Earth. The idea here is that this machine could be built on a much larger scale, and it could be used to distort time. However, as of right now, there are flaws. For example, it said you would be able to travel back in time but not come back, and you'd only be able to travel back to the time in which the machine was turned on. Although there are flaws, researchers have said it's a great start, and although more researchers needed, these initial discoveries could lead on to bigger things. Although time travel sounds impossible, there have been a few cases of time slips that have interested many people. Perhaps one of the most famous ones is that of the mysterious man from Torrent. This story is said to be one of the biggest pieces of evidence for that of a strange glitch in reality, and it's left many wondering if the story is evidence of alternate realities, and somehow a mix-up in the fabric of our universe that could have briefly interacted with another. In the month of July in 1954, Japanese officials at the Tokyo airport had a problem identifying the country of origin for a man that was ready to board a plane back to Europe. On his verified passport was the country of Torad that had no signs of a forged document. After sitting down with the man and questioning who he was and where he was going, he became increasingly annoyed as to why he was being held. They later revealed to him the problem with trying to find his country of origin, of which didn't exist. After arguing with them to show the country on the map, they gathered several different world maps for him to use as evidence for his country's existence. As he pulled over the map, pointing to the general direction near France and other areas, he realized that his country wasn't anywhere to be found. He became increasingly disturbed by this and told the officials that his country had been around for more than 1,000 years, and that it didn't make any sense. When they asked for him to confirm his identity, he gave the name of his company as well as the company he was visiting in Tokyo on a business meeting, and that during his trip he had a scheduled meeting ahead of time. The officials then called the Japanese company, but they quickly denied ever having heard of the man or having any meeting schedule. Additionally, they couldn't find no evidence of the man's company whatsoever. This ended with the officials renting a hotel room for him to stay in, while several guards watched as they were unsure of what he would do. When the man laid down, it's said that he disappeared and was never seen again. Another alleged case of time travel is that of Kathy Kramer. In the month of August back in 1960, a strange disappearance occurred in which a 6-year-old girl went missing. This led to a full investigative search by law enforcement and investigators throughout the entire house and a few miles radius surrounding the house. This led to neighbors, volunteers, law enforcement, and many others joining in on the search, doing full sweeps of the house and the neighborhoods. Details surrounding the investigation came from the combined witness accounts of the parents. They claimed that the young girl was put to bed around 7 p.m., but then faded from existence and disappeared before their very eyes. It wasn't until another 8 hours passed that suddenly the young girl faded back into existence, asleep in her bed as if she'd never left. When asked about where she was or what happened, she refused to speak. And officers and other investigators were completely baffled as to how a young 6-year-old girl could have hidden from so many people. Perhaps one place where time travel or time slips is seen as in ancient paintings. One of the more well-known ones is that of the Madonna with Saint Giovannino. The painting depicts Madonna with the infant Jesus and Saint John. In the background is a man looking up into the sky, and also his dog by his side with its mouth open slightly. Both of them have their attention focused on something in the sky. When first looking at the painting, one of the first things you'll notice is a large object that can be seen hovering in the sky. It was painted in the 15th century, and in recent years it started to make the rounds on social media, causing many to put forward their ideas on what the object could be. While the main person in the painting is that of Mary, you can't help but see what appears to be an unidentified flying object. Interestingly, the painter even decided to add a man looking at the object. Some have said this is proof that these mysterious crafts have been visiting our planets for years, while others say it could be proof of a time traveler. Some have made the connection that many of these older paintings do show these mysterious objects in the sky. These artists were skilled in what they did, and the question here is why did they add these objects that look very similar to UFOs? Another theory, however, suggests that the object in question is just God or even angels. As of today, though, the true nature of what the object is still heavily debated. In the last few years, Tom DeLonge has expressed his interest in unidentified flying objects. His biggest audience reach was probably when he decided to go on the Joe Rogan podcast. While on Joe's show, Tom opened up about his interest in UFOs and otherworldly life. He stated that from a young age, the thought of there being aliens interested him. When on tour, he would read books that explored the possibility of extraterrestrials, and since then, he's been hooked. During the interview, however, Tom was reluctant to give much information away. He was being pressed for information, but only said that he would be releasing photographs and videos that would change the way we viewed the world. A couple of days ago, it was announced by Tom and his to the Stars Academy they would be working with the U.S. government, and this was in regards to their unidentified aerial phenomenon discovery. The company has also said they've brought on some leading researchers on AI, and that they're working on a new service. To the Stars Academy posted the following. As part of our AI initiatives, we've built a compelling service for post-ingestion and analysis processing, which marks an instant authentic if it passes human and machine learning analysis. These datasets will help us to analyze future ingested media and clean up unnecessary data. Tom then went on to say the following. This is a very exciting technology we have built. It can be used for numerous defense requirements, as well as its primary mission to track unidentified air phenomenon. Further saying that, I'm proud to be collaborating with the U.S. government on unidentified air phenomenon and the issues that they pose. It's been a lifelong dream of mine to be sitting in this seat, where I and my team at the To the Stars Academy can help understand the issues. First, we start with the U.S. Army testing our anomalous material, allegedly from an unidentified aerial phenomenon crash. Although this is great news in the sense that Tom and his company are making connections, others are worried the path he is going down. Now, before I start, it's important to remember that a UFO is simply an object that someone cannot identify at that moment in time, hence why it stands for Unidentified Flying Object. It's only been in recent years that the UFO has been linked to extraterrestrial beings. It was in fact the military that used this term to describe enemy aircrafts they couldn't explain. But as many are aware, over the last few decades, hundreds of thousands of these objects have been witnessed by people all over the world. And although the majority of these do get explained, a large amount of them remain unsolved. The issues people have with this statement is that he's now working with the government. And according to some, they haven't had open arms when it comes to unidentified flying objects and things of a paranormal nature. In fact, several presidents have come forward and said that UFOs have never landed or visited our planet, so it seems like a strange move for him to now be working with them given their history with the topic. It's caused some to speculate that all they'll do is brush aside their discoveries and suggest they have a mundane explanation, rather than doing actual research in trying to determine what the origins of the object could be. This subject links back to what Tom said on his Twitter a while back. He said the following: "Everyone will know the reality soon, and unfortunately it's not just something to laugh at. It's pretty unnerving, with some bad news, some good news, and with that in mind, all we can do is deal with it honestly and openly." At the time, there was speculation that Tom and his team may have had their hands on some exotic materials, and this came several months after people started to question Tom's intention. After he went on the Joe Rogan podcast, he announced he would be releasing some big news in the coming weeks. However, nothing was said, and people thought that Tom may have been lying about what he was up to. But then this announcement came and changed people's minds. It turns out that in a recent statement by Steve Justice, who is the chief operating officer of the To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences, says how the organization got their hands on exotic properties. He said the following on the subject: "The structure and composition of these materials are not known from any existing military or commercial application. They've been collected from sources with varying levels of chain of custody documentation, so we are focusing on verifiable facts and working to develop independent scientific proof of the material's properties and attributes. In some cases, the manufacturing technology required to fabricate the materials is only now becoming available. To the Stars Academy has acquired multiple pieces of metamaterials that are reported to have come from an advanced aerospace vehicle of unknown origin. We're enthusiastic about its potential use and how it can further our mission for discovery and innovation. As you can imagine, many people are excited about this news. If it turns out to be true, it could be perhaps one of the greatest discoveries ever made. Not only that, but it could prove that what people have been seeing over the past 100 years is in fact advanced aerial machines. This is why the Army are now moving in to try and see if the object is in fact from an unidentified flying object. And if it is, it would definitely be an incredible discovery, proving once and for all that these crafts have been visiting our planet for thousands of years. However, some are not excited by this news and say that even if the materials are exotic, it's very unlikely the truth will be revealed. With one person saying the following on Twitter: "Out of everyone around, including the scientific rooms, was the Army getting involved? Weren't they the ones that originally said that Roswell was real, then went back on their statement when they saw everyone's reaction? Are they really the best people for this job? It sounds to me like if they do find something, they'll just cover it up and use it to their advantage. Or perhaps this material was from the original Roswell crash and they're just trying to collect and get rid of any proof that is out there. I'm not buying this, and I think the Tom and the To the Stars Academy is making a mistake going down this route. Something seems off, and I don't think we'll ever find the truth about this material." This recent revelation has many people saying that Tom may have been telling the truth the whole time. Some have suggested that over the years there have been a few unidentified flying objects that have collided with our planet, and some have allegedly said that some of these materials have been collected. However, the government and researchers have denied that any UFOs have ever been discovered, saying that we've scoured our skies for decades and not picked up on a single life form. However, it's not like the government hasn't expressed interest in these crafts. Back in 2007, the Department of Defense began developing a UFO research program tasked with gathering information regarding unidentified flying objects and conducting research as to the observed aircrafts. their origin, and their technological prowess. The research group was quickly budgeted with $22 million in support, and a team comprising of military intelligence officials, researchers, and the highest levels of security clearance. The program itself went by the name of ADIP, which stands for the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, and was given the primary objective of identifying these unidentified flying objects as whether or not they are potential threats to national security. It didn't take long for the ARDIP team to gather a wide variety of strange sightings, and these included reports from pilots, including associated data like camera footage and radar information, while attempting to match these sightings with known international aircraft signatures. Expecting to find explanations to these crafts and their origin, it became rather obvious this would not be the case. In fact, many of the researchers involved in the program regarded these UFO sightings in crass as having no earthly origin and displaying behavior that could not be explained. This could very well be the closest the Department of Defense will ever come to admitting the viability of extraterrestrial crafts without directly saying it. One company that's done a great job at uncovering the vast amount of UFO sightings that happen on a daily basis is that of the privately funded organization known as the Mutual UFO Network. This has allowed UFO researchers and those interested in alien activity a plethora of information pertaining to the subject and to make the connections otherwise impossible to notice without treating the overall statistics as a piece to a bigger picture. This has painted a much clearer image of UFO witness reports in general, and has allowed us to find out how many annual witness reports of UFO activity are made by the general public all around the world. According to gathered reports, more than 6,000 reports have been made annually throughout the region that includes multiple witness testimonies and evidence per report. This means that on average we experience roughly 16 sightings of unidentified flying objects every day. These reports can vary from something as simple as a strange, unexplainable light in the sky to a full-fledged sighting of an extraterrestrial and alien abduction. Putting this into perspective, this is more than a 5,000 report increase since first reports were gathered back in the early 1970s that claim annual reports were as low as 700. This has led to the gathering of an extraordinary amount of evidence pertaining to the UFO phenomenon, with thousands of new photos, videos, and witness reports surfacing every year. Keep in mind that these numbers are only that of the reports that have been followed up and reported to the National UFO Reporting Center and move on, which means there could be an overwhelming amount of evidence and reports not yet shared by the general public in fear of being ridiculed by their peers. There are areas on our planet that haven't been explored by humans. It's these pockets of wilderness that some say are harboring prehistoric life. For some time now, there have been reports of alleged dinosaurs coming from these regions, and although you would be right being skeptical, so many people have allegedly had run-ins with these prehistoric creatures. One prehistoric creature that turned out to still be alive was that of the coelacanth. The underwater world is home to hundreds of thousands of species, and going back millions of years ago, prehistoric fish and reptiles ruled the dams. One of these mysterious creatures went by the name of the coelacanth, and this strange-looking fish was estimated to have gone extinct millions of years ago. However, every so often a diver would come forward and say they'd seen one in the wild. This was, of course, immediately written off as the creature was known to have become extinct. But when more and more reports started to come in, researchers finally decided to investigate. It turned out that when the scientists put a team together to investigate the creatures, they not only found they were real, but that they had been around since the time of the dinosaurs. It's examples like this why people don't rule out the possibility of prehistoric creatures still roaming our planet. Perhaps one of the most well-known images allegedly depicting a dinosaur is that of this one. The story goes that while in an unknown location, this individual was able to capture some strange creatures. When first seen them, the person wasn't sure what they were, and so decided to get their phone out and start recording these creatures. It wasn't until the footage was uploaded that some pointed out they looked like sauropods. For those unaware, sauropods were the largest of the dinosaurs that walked our planet millions of years ago. The largest of these sauropods is believed to be that of Argentinosaurus, or Platycodon minorium, and they would have reached lengths of up to 40 meters or 131 feet. However, when sauropods were young, they would have been much smaller than their parents. Although many don't believe these titans survived the extinction event, some have suggested that a new species was able to branch off, and this is why we have stories of these creatures, one of the more famous ones being that of the Mechalai. Going back to the baby sauropods, it was hailed as one of the most clear photographs yet of a previously unknown species, but as it turned out someone had reversed the images. And what we're actually looking at is a group of coats. Interestingly, coats played in reverse do look like what a sauropod is thought to have looked like. These creatures are known for their love of fruits and can be found in Central America. They don't weigh much more than a house cat and try to avoid animals such as jaguars. Although in this case it didn't turn out to be a prehistoric animal, there are many instances in which haven't yet been explained. One of these comes from the famous explorer Lieutenant Colonel Percy Fawcett. Percy Fawcett is a well-known explorer of South America. During his travels, he encounters some mysterious things along the way. Although some have brushed aside these stories, others have questioned that would someone who had this much experience lie about what they saw. On one particular occasion, while exploring the Amazon, Percy and his son discovered what appeared to be giant footprints. The reason he was here is because the locals discovered what was described as a large sauropod-like dinosaur. They sent in the lieutenant to mark the boundaries and investigate what the locals had discovered. After arriving here, it said that Percy admitted to seeing a creature that resembled that of a diplodocus, and that this creature was confirmed to have existed by the locals, as they stated that over the course of several years, they'd encountered these creatures on various occasions. It was said they wasn't harmful but could cause a lot of damage if they wanted. The creature in question is said to be a smaller version of the prehistoric diplodocus and is usually seen in dense vegetation. One of the local tribe members said that many of these have vanished over the years, and going back 100 years ago, seeing this creature was much more common. When pressed for why he thinks they become rare, he said they were hunted for their meat and they could cause damage to surrounding homes. So they wanted to stop them. So the next question is, what are these tribes encountering? After questioning members of the tribe back in the early 1900s, they said that what they are seeing is no normal wildlife. Further saying that the ancient beasts have moved into the swamps and nearby waters for protection, and that if you approach one, it will come for your canoe. Some, however, have suggested that what these people are encountering are hippos. However, as pointed out, how could Percy Forsyth get these two confused? A diplodocus looks much different to a hippo. As of today, these mysterious creatures remain a mystery. It's not just land where alleged prehistoric animals have been encountered. Although not dinosaurs, plesiosaurs were creatures that lived alongside the dinosaurs millions of years ago, and some have suggested these giant marine reptiles somehow managed to survive the extinction event. This is due to the fact that all over the world there have been many sightings of these creatures. Perhaps one of the most famous is that of the Loch Ness Monster. Some have made the connection between the two creatures and have put forward the idea that the Loch Ness Monster is in fact a surviving plesiosaur species. Possibly one of the biggest ocean mysteries is that of the search for the Loch Ness Monster. Although many of us have heard stories or seen pictures of the creature, it's long been a mystery as to what the Loch Ness Monster actually is. Theories for the creature have been thrown around for years, some more believable than others. Researchers have said, though, that these could just be anomalies and don't prove anything. Skeptics say that 99% of the Loch Ness Monster sightings can be explained, and they do turn out to be things that are usually mundane, suggesting that what people are actually seeing is things like logs in the water. This can give a distorted image and make people think they're seeing something that's not actually there. Natural phenomena is also said to be another candidate, as well as pareidolia and even local wildlife. What's interesting, though, is there's other creatures out there that match the description of the Loch Ness Monster. One of these goes by the name of Champ. It's a popular Canadian monster that resides deep within Lake Champlain. It's proven to be one of the most legendary and popular monsters ever residing within the Canadian border. Located within the Canadian province of Quebec is that of Lake Champlain, a freshwater lake that holds more than 300 reported sightings of the serpentine-like creature, that many claim is perhaps a distant cousin to that of the Loch Ness Monster. High-quality photographs taken back in 1977 have been proven to be authentic, leading many to believe that Champ is that of a plesiosaur. Scientific proof of the creature's existence has also been gathered in the modern day. This was after a team of marine specialists working for the Fauna Communications Research Institute used an echolocation device to map the bottom of the lake. After doing so, they picked up on an unknown marine animal sound similar to that of a beluga whale but not from no known marine animal in existence. Today, the monster has a status similar to that of the Loch Ness Monster, and has become the center of cryptid enthusiasts attempting to prove the viability of a surviving plesiosaur species in the modern day. Located on the border of the state of Utah and Idaho in the United States, there appears to be strange sightings of an underwater creature that has been referred to by the locals as the Bear Lake Monster. According to witness reports, this creature is described as being a large serpent with legs more than 18 inches long that quickly runs across the shoreline. It would later surface that back in 1868, many locals in the region were interested in these strange sightings, and so would go on to cause a full investigation on the matter, and this was led by church leaders in the area and other reputable sources of information. These investigations would go on to uncover many different accounts from people living on or near the lake that regarded the existence of the creature as fact, along with questioning some of the Native American populations in the region that told of ancient stories and myths about the lake, and how it was inhabited by a serpent-like water devil. Other church leaders then quickly took interest in the creature, and became obsessed with attempting to capture the strange serpent in an effort to parade it around as a real-life demon that could be used to show the power of God in capturing the beast. A resident near the lake even proposed building a large baited hook attached to a cable of rope more than 300 feet long, and attaching it to a boat to a buoy in the hopes of capturing the creature. However, this tactic never managed to capture the Bear Lake Monster. As of today's sightings of the Bear Lake Monster continue, some even reported that a large underwater behemoth has exited the water and destroyed their camp, while taking one of their horses underwater for a snack. The United States Space Force has been in the media for a while now, with some people not quite understanding why the United States needs a Space Force. Regardless, the whole idea is very much real and has got many people talking. Recently, the U.S. Space Force has defended its newly unveiled camouflage uniforms. This was after they were quickly memed online. Others thought it was funny as to why Space Force had to have camouflage in space, with some people saying, "Who are they hiding from?" The uniform depicts the typical camo color. Space Force has said, though, that the uniform is well underway, and that they're very happy with the design. One person, however, said the following about the decision. "I know this is hard to understand, but on the left there is a picture of a camouflage, and on the right there is a picture of space. Study these carefully until you see the difference." Deborah had this to say about the uniform. "I don't get why they use camo. It's not original and it doesn't make sense. Why is this needed? Regardless of the uniform, why do we need a Space Force?" However, another person had this to say. "This is very funny, but all these comments just reflect that you don't understand the issue. Space capabilities are based in space, but the operations are not. Sometimes they're in the field with the units that need to support those capabilities. Space Force isn't Star Trek. So what is Space Force? For those unaware, Space Force made headlines for being announced on the 20th of December 2019. Although there were talks before this. It sounds like a joke, but on the 18th of June 2018, President Donald Trump said that plans were being put into place to begin a Space Force. This military service would be operating in space and everything that revolves around space. This is the first of its kind, and it got many people asking questions. One being, why do we need a Space Force? If there's no threat beyond our planet, why is this necessary? According to researchers, there's no evidence that extraterrestrial life exists. So for some, it does seem like a strange move. Vice President Mike Pence then came forward and started to give more details about the project, saying that Space Force will fall under the Air Force in the same way the Marine Corps fall under the Department of the Navy. Officials have said that creating Space Force would cost in the region of $2 to $3 billion and will require over 14,000 people. Mike Pence said the following about Space Force: "Just as in the past when we created the Air Force, establishing the Space Force is an idea whose time has come. The space environment has fundamentally changed in the last generation. What was once peaceful and now uncontested is now crowded and adversarial." Mr. Trump then carried on by saying the following: "I'm hereby directing the Department of Defense and Pentagon to immediately begin the process necessary to establish a Space Force. This will act as the sixth branch of the armed forces." That's a big statement. We're going to have an Air Force and we're going to have the Space Force. Separate but equal. Interestingly, some have said this comes down to money, and this can be backed up with what Mark Outred said. He was the executive secretary of the National Space Council from 1989 to 1992. He had this to say: everything from financial transactions to GPS that guards your cards controlled from space, or at least facilitated in space. Not just that, but there's also celestial objects that contain trillions of dollars worth of materials. Recently, NASA have announced that a giant asteroid known as Psyche contains enough precious metals to make everyone on Earth a billionaire. The incredible statement was announced shortly before NASA said they're going to investigate the asteroid. It's over 140 miles in diameter and can be found between the orbits of Mars and Jupiter. NASA hope they will be able to launch a mission in 2022. It's even caught the attention of private companies and space mining companies that hope to take a slice of the asteroid for themselves. Researchers have estimated its worth over 10,000 quadrillion. This has also brought in people who want to invest in space mining. One person called Mitch Hunter said the following to the BBC: "Once you set up the infrastructure, then the possibilities are almost infinite. There is an astronomical amount of money to be made by those bold enough to rise to the challenge of the asteroid rush." Another planet that would make you instantly rich is that of Cancurii, also known as the Diamond Planet. Known as 55 Cancurii, the rest of planets made almost entirely out of diamonds, and it's expected to be roughly 8 times the collective mass of our planet Earth. Unfortunately, if you planned on mining the planets to fathom its precious gems, you would find the entire planet to be so hostile that it's most likely almost entirely covered in lava. The planet is expected to be tidally locked, which means there rests a permanent day side and a permanent night side, as there's no rotation to create a day and night cycle. This leaves the day side of the planet to be more than 1,700 degrees Celsius in temperature, a temperature more than hot enough to turn iron into liquid. Its gravity works out to be more than 8 times that of Earth's, and the large amount of data concerning surface temperature variations have been connected to a large amount of possible volcanic activity, and this releases large clouds of dust that can cover the whole planet and turn it into darkness. If that doesn't make mining operations seem near impossible, the orbit of the planet around its sun takes less than 18 hours to complete. That means that an entire year and 55 Cancuries left in a single day on Earth, making landing and launching to and from the planet nearly impossible to maintain. Interestingly, it's not just the US government who are interested in space. The revolutionary founder of Microsoft that helped to lead the world into the age of information, Mr. Bill Gates, is one of the leading pioneers of the modern age. He has dedicated his nearly limitless fortune and time into forming the nonprofit organization known as the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, which is named after himself and his wife, of whom helped to start the organization. This was in order to help tackle a lot of the problems that plague the world that we see today. Not only has this proven to be an incredible fruitful endeavor, causing dramatic changes in poor countries, as well as saving a countless amount of lives, but it's led to incredible technological breakthroughs in the realm of sustainability and industrial revolution in poverty-stricken areas. Due to this work, Bill Gates has become an expert when discussing future projections of the wealth and the effects of his work, as well as others, leading him to make astonishing, accurate predictions about the future. So when Bill Gates comes out with a new idea or backs an idea, he usually makes the rounds on social media. He's most recently been backing a company by the name of Earth Now. This company is looking at putting a number of satellites that will provide live video and virtual real-time. However, it very quickly started to get criticism. The pitch for the idea stated they would create satellites that could see in any corner of the globe and provide live videos with a delay of only around a second. It seems to have piqued the interest of investors, as it's already been announced that Airbus, the SoftBank Group, and Bill Gates will be investing. The initial funding is said to focus primarily on maturing the overall system design to deliver innovative and unique real-time Earth observation services. Although it sounds like we're years away from getting this, it's actually been reported they plan to have the satellites around Earth by 2020. Some of these satellites have already been deployed, and the highly advanced satellites will be landing our rifle within a few years. As mentioned, Bill Gates is one of the investors, and over the years he has done some incredible work. But the worry here is that the company has said they will sell the service to the government and enterprise clients. It's not so much who it's going to. The worry is, what will that person do with this kind of technology? Of course, things like this can have a very positive impact. For example, the company has listed a lot of potential uses for its network, some of which include catching illegal fishing in the AGS, watching hurricanes and typhoons as they develop, detecting forest fires the moment they start, and watching volcanoes the instant they start to erupt. Researchers have said it's an exciting time to be alive as many missions to space are coming up. Elon Musk and his company SpaceX has plans to land on the Red Planet. He is currently working with experts and astrophysicists that are in the process of devising new ways to replenish the Martian atmosphere. Not only that, but they also plan to repair the planet's ecosystem to make it sustainable for human life. They hope to have achieved this by 2030. If this fails, NASA have said they're looking at putting people on the Red Planet, saying that they again hope to do this by 2030. So my question to you guys is, what do you make of Space Force and their new uniform?